everyone, welcome back. In the previous video, I said Brain Upton defines play as free movements within a system of constraints. I left in an open questions: how do constraints shape choice, and how does that define the pleasure of play? In this video, I will dive into the interactivity chapter of Brain Upton's book, The Aesthetic of Play, to answer that question. Upton starts by pointing out that, unlike linear media such as film, literature, or drama, games are essentially interactive. Interactivity means that the player is not just a receiver of meaning, but an active participant who transforms the narrative space. To illustrate this, Upton gives us a basic model of interactivity. He introduced two key concepts, which are state and constraint. A game is not a collection of random actions, but a system where players navigate through a space of states, making choices within a framework of constraints. So I'm gonna talk the specific connotation of these two concepts. So Upton said constraints determine which moves are permitted, while the state is an evolving record of the player's movement within the system. So the constraints are fixed, but the state is flawed. This fits nicely with the definition of play, which is free movement within a system of constraints. By layering this concept, Upton deconstructs interactivity into something more than just clicking or responding. The player's experience becomes a dynamic dance between state, constraint, and imagination. Within this framework, Upton emphasizes that strategy is a kind of internal constraint, which is a particular play style or approach. We are imposing limitations on ourselves to create a coherent logic of choice. Further, he classifies constraints into four categories. So you can see from the graph I just put on the video. So you can see this matrix allows us to understand interactivity as layered and dynamic, not just about player inputs or immediate feedback. So the designer's task is to construct these complex networks of constraints that inspire strategic choices from the player. So return to our opening question. How do constraints shape choice, and how does that define the pleasure of play? The pleasure of play comes from making meaningful choices within boundaries. It is a freedom in self-imposed constraint that forms the aesthetic of interactivity. But if interactivity is action within a state space, we might ask in return, how are the state spaces constructed by designers? What are their shapes, rhythms, and possibilities? That brings us to the next chapter, which is play spaces in this book. So stay tuned to my next video. See you guys. Bye.